And it is my pleasure to welcome the general manager of Fuse Labs, Lily Cheng, who is going to fill us in on the role of social media for researchers. Welcome.
Thanks
for coming. This is fun. We have much to talk about. A lot of people watching are saying, oh, Fuse Labs, of course. But for those who are like, wait a minute, what is, do tell. Tell us what you're up to.
So Fuse Labs, Fuse stands for Future Social Experiences Labs. And we're a group in Microsoft Research that really focuses all about social software. So new experiences that people might have for interacting, and then just lots of tools that you might want for other people to build, as well as doing a lot of data analysis and things with data from other social networks.
Wow. Expand upon that a little bit, because there's a lot in there. You're making it sound very modest. But I know there's some very cool things at work.
So,
some tangible examples.
Well, let me give you a great story. So I think probably about 2 years ago, there was a guy in my group, and he was really interested in Twitter data. And this is sort of before analyzing Twitter data was really popular. Mm-hmm. So he started this little project, and 3 weeks after he started looking at Twitter data, really looking at what people shared in Twitter, so URLs that people were sharing and how they propagate through the system. He built this prototype, and 3 weeks after we shipped on Bing. So being able to go from, you know, my Hello World Twitter app, building this on Windows Azure, and then shipping it on Bing was really exciting for us. And I think it really changed the way we started thinking about social software. Yeah. And then about a month later, the team said, hey, you know, we just did this deal with Twitter where we have access to the whole Twitter fire hose. Can you guys use your system to support that? So we said, sure, not really knowing what we were getting into, of course.
Right, of course.
But it was really exciting. And part of the reason that they asked us to do that is we had built this system for processing social data in real time. And it's just a little bit different than web data, because you have to know about links, and you're processing things very quickly, and you want to know about identity. And then I think about 6 months later, we got all the Facebook public data through the same system. And so we were a really small team. I think we increased our staff to 2 people working on it, and we had all this data. And it was just awesome for us in research to be able to go from a really simple idea, small number of people, to partner with the Bing team, to just having this out there for people to play with and experience. And today, we've since transitioned that project to the Bing team, and they have a whole team, you know, doing that project. And that social data actually powers all the social search features that you see out there today on our search engine. So that's just a great success story. And I think that experience really made us sort of take a step back and say, wow, you know, social is so much broader than we had even imagined it in the beginning. Right. So we had always thought more about the communication experiences. We're an experiences team. We try to think of the design and the way people are interacting with tools. But we started to understand that we really needed to also be able to understand the infrastructure for this, and how to you know, build things on the web really quickly, partner with teams in new ways. So Fuse Labs is a little bit atypical, I think, when you think of research labs. I mean, we build a lot of stuff. Everything we build, you can pretty much just use it. It's out there on the web. Usually, if you have social software and it's not usable by lots of people, you don't really know if it works.
Right.
And so our work is very applied. We have a lot of developers, a lot of designers, and in some sense, you know, we operate a lot like a startup.
Wow. Well, and it seems like a very interwoven thing here, because you're talking about this technology that's based on the social. You're getting the feedback from social, what's working. I mean, it seems like this sort of highly complicated thing that sort of relies on each other, both ends of the spectrum there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you know, ideally, you want a person, like people, like what kind of people do you want? You want people who just get social. They use tools and they communicate in a very sort of modern way, I think. But you want people who can think about design and how to make the experiences really simple, but also have the chops to kind of go under the covers and do something that people haven't done before. So we got this data from Search, which was awesome. I mean, who else has public Twitter data and the Facebook data, and then all of our Bing data, and you know, sort of data flying out of our ears. And we said, well, you know, what do you do with that? What do you do with all the data that's really compelling?
First, you get overwhelmed.
Yeah, first you're like, oh my gosh, I just have to keep this thing up and running.
Right.
But then so we started to play with it, and we found that, you know, you could just spend all your time analyzing the data and maintaining the servers, but we really wanted to say, well, you know, what's different for people and the way they communicate and the way they search once you have all this data. So we thought, you know, it's really interesting for us because when you have all the search data and all the social networking data, you realize that these systems were actually invented separately. So search, you know, you have a little box and you type a word and you get some text back, and it's very solo. And social networking, if you want to share a link in a social network, you leave your social network, you go out to the web, you look around, you find a link, you copy that little thing in, you paste it in, you do some stuff, maybe you get a thumbnail, or you it gets shortened by URL shortener in Twitter. And then you share it out, and if you're viewing it, you see this link, and you click on it, you go out to the web. And we just thought these systems were both designed separately a long time ago. What if you were starting over and you were just redesigning search or redesigning social networks? How might the web and the way you share things come closer together? And so we've been really excited. We released this project about 6 months ago called Social. I could give you guys a demo in a little bit. And it's just been, you know, we're sort of at the crazy phase again that we were when we got all the Twitter and Facebook data of just making sure everything runs and trying to get enough analytics in there so we can really see what's happening, you know, by the minute. But it's really our hope that we can empower other people to study this stuff. So I do a lot.
You lit up when you talked about it, so let's see something.
All right,
you got a demo for us.
So I have some, I think these are some slides, but let me go through a few slides. I'll just give you a little summary of what I just talked about. So this is our group. This was the Twig project that I mentioned, where we had, you know, this is back in 2009, but really 2 guys building this whole infrastructure for Bing, which was super exciting for us. Lots of data, just massive amounts of data. And we actually built the front end for Bing at that time, which was really simple sort of hello world social search page, which is completely grown and blossomed in the Bing team for doing all kinds of things. And then what we did is we actually did a lot of analysis on the data. We took our FAST engine that we have, which is a great entity extraction tool to say for every tweet, like who are you talking about, who are the people in there, what are the verbs and things like that. So we had all this data, and then we said, let's just do this sort of explosion of apps that we built. So this is just a screenshot that shows you all the different apps that we built for people using this data. And one thing that we found is that if we sort of componentize things, we could build these apps really quickly. Because our thing, just like anybody out there, is you don't really know what's going to work until you put it out in front of people and they use it in different ways and things like that. So this will come back in my talk in a little bit.
Like you said, you don't know if it's popular until you put it out there, see who's using it, see what happens.
So this is one of our things. Let me give you a quick demo of that. That's called Montage. So one of the first things that we thought was, you know, today kids, they're out there, maybe they want to write a research paper or do something, and they, you know, if you're starting with Word or a traditional document editor, you start with this big blank page. And that's really just not the way people live on the web. They might start with Wikipedia, or, you know, they're starting with lots of information. So we thought if you were starting
it's too lonely.
From scratch, it's just blank. Would you ever start with blank?
It's too overwhelming. I got to fill this whole thing out with words.
It's a lot of work. So we thought, what if you just had to type a word, and then we would say, okay, here's a bunch of stuff. So yarn bombing is one of my favorite things. Yarn bombing is not really academic. Yarn bombing is taking yarn and putting it on stuff. So what this is
new to me. I'm excited.
Okay, so this is like yarn bomb tree.
Okay, wait a minute. I've seen some yarn bomb trees, and I wondered.
You wondered
this must
what
be a thing I don't know about.
So it is this weird kind of, you know, fun, playful thing that people do. But if I wanted to write an article on yarn bombing, I might say, okay, I want to keep this one. So there I go. I typed a word. Boom, I have a document. You can see I have a bunch of stuff from Twitter.
Everything from people tweeting about it to articles.
All kinds of search articles.
Pictures.
And we just made this for you. But you probably want to customize it. So you could come in and say, you know what? I want to pick my own pictures. So I'm going to pick different ones. Like, you know, I don't know, this weird pink car or whatever. And I can say save. And then what that does is it automatically just updates that. And then it'll
very warm buzz.
Exactly. A lot of work. Or I could say, you know what, I just don't like this one, so I'm going to edit it. I'm going to remove it.
Wow.
And so this just lets people, in a very playful way, start to create documents and web pages. Because I think creating a web page is still too hard today. You know, a lot of people can't just type a word and post it. And then this actually, you can publish it out to the web and just share the page.
Well, it's neat to see not only the results in the articles and the imagery, but then to see the live Twitter feed on the side there, because you can see, you know, if it's something, yeah, is it just me? Am I a weirdo that I'm into this yarn bombing thing? And you go, nope, this guy's tweeting about it. He just found somebody doing it out front of their store. Here's somebody saying that they love it. Have you seen it? Here's where it's happening.
And the other thing is, we were trying to introduce to people that sometimes content in your document is live and updates all the time, and other times it's pinned and is going to stay just the way you want it. So those pictures that I pinned aren't going to change, but like Twitter, the Twitter data is going to come and stream in and be live. So this was this great project that we did, but one of the problems is it's not about sharing this creation that you made. So typically it would be the experience of I'd take this URL and I'd drop it into Twitter, or I'd share it out, but people can't really find these documents very well.
Yeah.
So that's when we started this search project that I talked about, which is called Social. So this is Social. So we took those same ideas of montage, which you think of it maybe as document creation, but it's also just searching and showing your search results in a very visual, beautiful way. So we said, what if we did the same thing, but we just focused completely on sharing? And so here you can see all kinds of topics that people in Social are sharing. So this is sort of your kind of a more traditional social network. If I scroll down, maybe I'll pick a topic. One of my favorite topics is architecture. I used to be an architect. So you can see here in Social, this is this project that we released in December. People are creating these little montage collages of all kinds of things that they've tagged architecture.
Yeah.
Isn't this cool?
Wow.
And there are, you know, tens of thousands of these posts. And what I think is really neat is if you think of how you share things in many social networks today, you can't you'd have to upload all these pictures.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
And that would be kind of a hassle. So if I wanted to just create a new post on architecture, I could say Fumiko Maki is one of my favorite architects. So I love this one building, the Spiral building in Tokyo. Okay, so I search for it, and this is just giving me back Bing results. So I can say, you know, I like that one. Maybe I want to see other things by Fumiko Maki. So I'm going to see a lot more of his buildings. I'm going to, you know, pick a bunch of stuff that I like that he's done. And then I might want to add a few web pages. So I can add maybe his architecture firm site. I could add some videos of work that he's done. So I'm basically just authoring. Okay, I'm picky because I want to make cool stuff. I don't really like any of those videos. But anyway, you get the idea. And I could say, you know, this is the Spiral building in Tokyo. And then I can post it.
That's the kind of thing that, like, you know, would have been a project in school growing up, and it would have taken you weeks, right? You'd have had to find all these things, compile it, make this big fancy thing.
And so
all you've done
here,
is typed in
now I just typed
keywords.
a word, typed a few keywords, clicked on some stuff, and I posted it. And now, instead of being just in the architecture feed, I can tag it architecture. We're back on the live feed, so you can see all different kinds of things that people out there are posting. And it's just been really exciting for us to see.
Really neat.
People do this. I think the other thing that's been really interesting for us is just to see what people do that's kind of cool. So one of the things people do is we see every morning people come and use this. So they might say hello to each other, and they say hello in you know, just really creative, fun ways.
Right.
So anyway, so we've been having a lot of fun with this. This is just one of our projects, and we have a whole website, and like I said, most of the stuff that we have is visible out there. So that was Social, and then we have, I'll just another minute or two. And then
No, we'd love it. This is fantastic.
So one of the things that we've been thinking about is we designed Social as a search engine. And we said, you know, it's interesting because people don't use it like a search engine.
Right.
They're using it as a social network. And so we want to kind of go back and rethink the design. So these are just some design mocks that we have. We've also been thinking about how to make this work in your office, or, you know, in your entertainment or in search. So how do you kind of take these concepts and embed them in all different experiences? And then, of course, we're doing lots of research and data analysis on how people use it. So this just says, you know, what people do, what makes people come back.
Right.
And then we kind of share all this code that I showed you earlier. So this is just one thing that I wanted to mention. One of the things that we found is, you know, we're pretty lucky. We have a team of, I don't know, 25 people or so that get to work on this. And, you know, it's a lot of work to create your own search engine, create your own social network, host it all, make sure it doesn't fall over, get users. So one of the things that we really want to do with schools, and this is great for the Faculty Summit, is we want to think about how can we really reach out and engage with more students.
Right.
In Microsoft Research, we have internships and postdocs and all these great ways that we engage with people. But it's really my belief that the students are the ones driving social media.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? I mean, they grow up with it, they live with it, and they're going to be the generation of students who reinvent what we think of as search and social networking. And so we just really want to think about how we can empower students to experiment a lot more.
Right. Yeah, well, and it seems like the visual nature of it, too, is, as I was seeing you do the demo there, I'm thinking, things like the yarn bombing, which was new to me, you had known. It almost seems like a way of finding out who else is into this thing that maybe you think is cool. Because there are certain things in my life that I'm super passionate about. I, love this comedian, I love this thing, I love it. And I realized, and this occurred to me the other day with certain things, I said, I don't share this with anyone in my immediate circle. I have my best friends, my wife, my daughters. I go, there's nobody else in my immediate group that I have this in common with. This is like my thing that I'm into. It seems like that's almost a way of saying, see, here's my validation. There's a whole bunch of other people posting about this and loving this and sharing this and sort of fascinated by the same things I am.
Exactly. I mean, I think one of the things that I found is that if you're on Facebook or Twitter, there's always a social norm in every social network.
Right.
And so with Facebook and Twitter, typically you're writing about yourself or your company. And so you want to say interesting things that you've been doing. So I wouldn't just tweet yarn bombing. I mean, I would
Right.
I would kind of embarrass myself, right? If I just said that, or if I just started posting all these pictures about yarn bombing. And
Right.
people they'd be like, are you yarn bombing now?
Yeah.
Or did you see something
Yeah.
interesting? And so I think what's interesting about a lot of the topic-based social networks, so Pinterest is an example of this, there's a bunch of them, they're giving people sort of a different excuse to communicate. So maybe my life is really boring, I don't have anything interesting to say. It is sometimes like you don't want, I always tweet more when I travel because I'm doing something
Well, I was
new.
going to say, isn't that what Facebook is for, to make it look like we're all living this glamorous life, this really fabulous
So if you don't
life.
have a glamorous life,
So
try
busy, but I was able to post this.
Yeah, so this is just some topic or some news or something that's interesting
Right.
to you. You type a word and you can share it. And we just have been finding that people are using it in a different way. And so this is, we're a research group. And so I think one of the things that we're trying to think about is just, these tools are so early still. I mean,
Right.
Facebook 10 years ago wasn't around,
Right.
and if you talk to students today, they think, wow, these tools are set in stone. They don't feel like they can experiment by completely redesigning things the way we did, 5 years ago, and same
Yeah.
with search. And so I just think it's been really fun to see how people are using
Sure.
the tool in a really different way now that search is really integrated. And one of the things and just what is search? For me, I always think of search as a very textual thing. I think of it as finding, sort of information about links rather than finding these beautiful images. And what's been interesting about social is people are sharing like these, they're just revealing all this content that's out there on the web that they're recomposing in a way that that you just don't think of when you see search. So
Right.
like that architecture feed that I showed you, I think you wouldn't think necessarily to go to a search engine to find all those collages
Right.
of images.
Right. Well, and like you said, I mean, these things are early on, but you also see how fast they evolve. As you mentioned, Facebook, for example. I remember it seemed like it was just a couple of years ago that friends asked, "Are you on it?" Oh, come on, I'm not some teen bopper. Isn't that what it's for? It's just for kids to talk, right? And then it became this very legitimate thing that I'm convincing my parents, you guys got to get on. Then I'm skipping forward to where I announced the birth of my second daughter on Facebook. I don't have to call. I don't have to do this phone tree thing anymore. I'll post a photo of her and I'll put it right up there. And I did. And that was, just 2.5 years ago. So even with what you're doing with social, it's fun to see, even at its early stages, the possibilities and how, as you're unrolling it now and saying, isn't this fun, isn't this a neat new thing, could be completely normal,
Well, I think
in a
the other
couple of
thing that we
years.
have is, we've seen this from the beginning. So for a lot of people, it's really hard to remember what a lot of other social networks were in the beginning because you sort of join mid-stage. And if you're trying to study how things evolve, it becomes really challenging.
Yeah.
And so we've just been having a blast doing that. So
Well,
that's,
Lily, you got folks talking on social networks like Twitter. We're taking people's tweets all day and throughout the summit. And someone had already saying, be sure to ask about how researchers can use social in new ways. It's social's role in research.
Okay, so one of the things, great question, is we actually have been thinking about this a lot. And so we've been working with a few different types of schools, not just traditional computer science schools, but also iSchools and design schools, because a lot of people who think about data and user experience, aren't necessarily the hardcore computer science audience, although there are people there too. So we actually, tomorrow, we have a group of 30 iSchools in town to try to work with them to figure out, how are people interested in using this information? And we're really interested in how students learn, gather information, and might share information, but we're interested in all kinds of different uses. And there's an iSchool consortium that we're sort of partnering with to sort of figure out some different tools that we could use. So all the data in social, there really is no private data. We wanted to make the privacy policy really, really clear to people. So if it's private, it's just private to you. And so we wanted to be able to let other people reuse this data in interesting ways. So that's something that we're really looking at doing, kind of letting schools maybe analyze the data or just use it for their own UIs and user interfaces or experiments. But we're just sort of interested in knowing what people want to do with it. So if people have feedback, let me know. This is also up here. I don't know if you guys want to catch this.
Back on your screen? Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the iSchool thing that I was talking about, day 3. And then this is up on our website, and the URL's at the top. We're thinking of doing some sort of a student social media advisory program where we sort of reverse the roles, where the students are the experts and we're learning.
And aren't they really?
They are the experts, yeah. My kids are always like,
They
Mom.
just don't know it yet, yeah.
So one of the things that we're just interested in is feedback. And we want, we have a limited number of internships and things like that that we can have, and we're really trying to figure out how do we broaden this out a little bit. We have another program that we do with a bunch of design schools. So right now I have like 8 awesome design schools here, and we do a course with all of these design schools, and then they bring their students out and show work. So we're just trying to figure out what kind of program to do. So I would just say look at our website, fuse.microsoft.com, for info, or you can email any of the contacts here. There's Shelley, myself, lilich@microsoft.com, or sign up for the Student Social Media Advisory Program, and then we'll kind of send stuff out as we get that set up. Or check out social. We're always there, so you can always ask us stuff there too.
Well, and you mentioned a bunch of high schools in town tomorrow and stuff. Students, obviously, a big core of your emphasis, but are there certain user groups that you guys are focused on beyond that? I mean, are there core demos, in this world that you're working in?
Well, we're sort of interested in students, honestly. Social and a lot of anybody can use these tools, so it's not like we're saying if you're not a student,
but it's logical to think that the younger
But we're
folks
interested in youth. High schools, even middle schools. I just have found that they always inspire me. We did another related project called Kodu, which was a game to teach kids programming. And I was just down in LA, actually, at this youth hackathon. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And, there's like little 5-year-olds sitting there programming away. Little girl with a big hat on and her controller. And I can't really use a controller very well, so I just thought, this is so cool. So I think we're interested in students. We're also really interested in this international community. So one of the things that we have in social is people from all over the world are communicating together. And you don't see that much on a lot of other social networks, and they're talking to people that they don't know because our community is still pretty small. But because it's so visual, I think it's really easy to communicate. You're sharing an interest. You're sharing an interest about, art or, I don't know, cats or something. And people are telling these sort of visual jokes, and we have translation built in. We built that in from the very beginning. And we've just found our audience is very international. There isn't, it's definitely not a U.S.-centric audience.
Right.
And so we're just really interested in how do people who speak different languages from different places who don't know each other, how are they communicating in a way that's not weird and creepy? It's really cool. So.
Yeah. Well, you've inspired another tweet here online. Somebody basically asking you mentioned the design school showing off some of their stuff here at the summit. Say, do tell who, what?
Okay, so we have this incredible. We've been doing this for 8 years. This is the 8th Design Expo. And what we do is we pick a different set of schools every year. We rotate them. So this year we have, for the first time, the Royal College of Art in London, Tsinghua University in China. So those are our 2 new schools. We have Carnegie Mellon, University of Washington, Umeå in Sweden, Delft from the Netherlands, and ESD from Brazil. So these are our schools.
Wow.
We're amazing. And they're all here. They've done a class on information in my world. So it's very open topic, and the classes range, but we just, each school picks a project and they come and they do this presentation of their work, and we'll be showing that tomorrow. So I have like this huge party at my house and 1 million students around.
Great. Where's the address?
Yeah.
Let's put that up on the screen. Huge party.
But it's been great to see how students think of information in our world. Because a lot of times I think what we think of is sort of this kind of hardcore data analysis, and we get very scientific. And I think what's so refreshing about the design schools is the projects are just amazing. They're so whimsical. One of them from the Royal College of Art is about finding patterns in the natural world that might go unnoticed. So this guy, Neil, he built this incredible, beautiful camera. It's got like 2 ears, little antennas, and it's looking at the clouds for every time it sees a face in the clouds, and it captures that image and it shares it. And so they're just looking at how you document the real world around you. I mean, we never would have thought of that for studying data and information. We probably would have done some data analysis thing. So, so that's really exciting. It's coming tomorrow, and we'll be posting all those presentations online so you can see them. My favorite story about the Design Expo, the first year, one of our participants was Dennis Crowley, and he had 2 projects that he couldn't pick from. One was called Dodgeball, the other was called Modus, so he picked Modus. And Dodgeball later was acquired by Google and is now Foursquare. So, a lot of the students really go off.
That was his back burner. Like,
it was. I knew he was like, that's
not
this
good
project.
enough.
It's not that good. We're going to do this Modus thing.
Right.
But so what I love about the Design Expo is it just encourages very creative, entrepreneurial, make great stuff sort of attitude.
Any final advice for a lot of researchers watching, high schoolers out there? Anything? Final advice, takeaways for the folks watching who you've inspired, who either just want to go mess with social or say, hey, I want to get involved in this world?
I would just say students, they think about social software and design in ways that, old people don't. So we'd love to have more people participate. So one way in participating with youth stuff is doing the student advisory or just checking our stuff out and asking questions or sending us mail. And just the more people, I think, thinking about how the design of the communication tools could be better, because they could be so much better. It's just going to make the world a better place. So,
great stuff, Lily. Thanks so much for your time. Thanks for the demo. Very cool stuff. We'll be looking. Who knew researchers were such a sociable bunch? Now we do. And let's all go yarn bombing together sometime. It sounds fun. We're going to leave the airways for now. Sad about your wait. I know everybody's going, oh. We're going to be back in about 3 hours. 4:30 Pacific, that's 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central, 5:30 Mountain, and everybody else check your local listings. Make sure to join us. We're going to be streaming the closing keynote presentation from our 2-day faculty summit. GlacierWorks founder and executive director David Brashears, we had him here with us in studio yesterday. Unbelievably smart guy, filmmaker, mountaineer. Now he's taking it a step further. He's revealing look into the state of glaciers and the art of storytelling. Again, that is coming your way live, 4:30 Pacific Standard Time, 7:30 Eastern. You won't want to miss it. Until then, make sure to keep the conversation going via Twitter. Use that hashtag, FACSUMM, FactSum, in all of your tweets. That's FactSum with 2 M's. And if you have a minute, feel free to fill out the event evaluation form. You'll find that feedback form right there at MicrosoftFacultySummit.com. We appreciate your input. Just right there to the lower right of the video player, by the way. We want to hear from you. So tweet away, fill out an eval, make a sandwich, take a nap, whatever you feel like doing. You got a couple of hours. Just make sure you're right here for the closing keynote in a few hours. We'll see you then. I got to get some yarn. Yarn bomb this whole thing. Perfect. Thank you. That's super cool.
Each year, Microsoft Research hosts hundreds of influential speakers from around the world, including leading scientists, renowned experts in technology, book authors, and leading academics, and makes videos of these lectures freely available.